When I got home, the living room was already buzzing with my wife's party, her friends drunk and cackling like a flock of loud parrots. I hid in the shadows of the staircase, next to her Hermes bag tossed carelessly aside, a bag that cost more than my Ford F-150. That's when I heard my new nickname, Mr. Short Time, and the name she'd given her lover, Mr. Marathon. I didn't get angry. I didn't storm into the room. I just went back to my office, closed the door, and stared at the huge map of the Texas-Louisiana border hanging on the wall. Everyone thought the rules in Beaufort Crossing were about money and power, but I decided to show them that I was the one who made the real rules. And this grand show would kick off with an 18-wheeler, loaded with frozen crawfish etouffee, being stared down by dozens of M4 rifles at the state line checkpoint. It was 11:30 on a Friday night, and I had just processed an urgent batch of customs documents. The night air of Beaufort Crossing mixed the smells of diesel, dust, and swampy water, a combination that had been the backdrop to my 25-year career. I drove my pickup truck toward our subdivision without calling Evelyn to let her know I was on my way home. Lately, she was always saying I worked too late, that I left her alone, so I wanted to surprise her. Maybe we could have a drink together and talk, like we did when we were first married. Pulling into the garage, I noticed the light in her Porsche was on, and I could hear laughter coming from the living room. 3 other cars were parked in the driveway. I recognized her friends' vehicles, Penelope's white Mercedes, Rachel's BMW X5, and Paige's Lexus SUV. Each one of them was several times more expensive than the car belonging to this humble logistics agent, but their husbands were high-ranking state officials or corporate executives, so of course they had better cars than me. Company's here, I thought, deciding to slip in through the side door so I wouldn't interrupt their girls' night. I opened the door quietly and walked down the dark hallway. On the floor of the foyer were several pairs of expensive high heels scattered about, and Evelyn's 12,000 Hermes bag was tossed onto the low table by the stairs. I gave her that bag for her 40th birthday. It cost me 3 months of my net income. Now it was just lying there like a used napkin, casually discarded. The sounds of laughter, clinking glasses, and music drifted from the living room. I stopped instinctively, standing in the shadows of the staircase. They'd had a lot to drink. They were talking much louder than usual. The living room was dimly lit, with 4 women lounging on the sofas, surrounded by empty bottles and half-eaten snacks. "So, Evelyn," I heard Penelope's voice, slurred with curiosity, "is Ethan the same as always? Working late again tonight?" I heard Evelyn let out an exaggerated sigh, loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. "Don't even get me started on Mr. Short Time. He can't even get it up when he sees me anymore." Mr. Short Time, the nickname she'd given me. My blood ran cold. "Is it really that bad?" Paige asked, laughing. She was the wife of the biggest bank manager in Beaufort Crossing, with a tongue so venomous it could corrode steel. Evelyn picked up a piece of cake, crumbled it between her fingers, and said dismissively, "He's like this cake. Wham, bam, 3 seconds and it's over. Then he's fast asleep." I must have had 8 lifetimes of bad luck, marrying a man who only gets excited by paperwork. The 4 women burst into deafening laughter, like knives twisting in my self-esteem. "Oh my God, Evelyn," Rachel said sympathetically. Her husband was a high-ranking city official. "You're so beautiful, but you have to put up with this." "What a shame." "Who says I'm putting up with it?" Evelyn's voice suddenly dropped, but it was laced with a smug, lustful tone. "I have Mr. Marathon now." "Ooh, do tell." The 3 women leaned in simultaneously, like sharks smelling blood. "You know Leo the Bull Vance, the owner of the trucking company," Evelyn said in a dreamy voice. "He can drive a fully loaded rig from Beaufort Crossing to Chicago without breaking a sweat, and he's the same in bed, like a tireless piston. Yesterday, in the suite at the Hilton, we did it 3 times. Each time, he made me scream until my throat was raw." "Is he that big?" Penelope asked with interest. "Bigger than any man I've ever seen, including Ethan, especially Ethan," Evelyn scoffed. "And he has strength, stamina, passion, not like my husband, who only gets turned on by customs forms." They laughed again, this time the laughter mixed with a cheap, obscene excitement. "You know what Ethan was doing last night when I told him I was going to get my nails done?" Evelyn continued. "He was processing files on the computer, 25 years of the same thing, like a robot. I'm telling you, for a woman at 45, if you don't take the chance to experience a real man, it would be a total waste. To real men. Rachel raised her glass and the others followed. To the bull, Paige cheered, the hero who brought our Evelyn back to life. I backed away silently and gently closed the side door. There was no rush of anger, no emotional explosion, just a strange calm, like the quiet before a storm. This feeling was familiar. I'd developed it after years on the border, a coldness in moments of crisis. In Beaufort Crossing, impulsive people don't live long. I didn't go back to the office. I went straight to the garage and sat in my pickup. The roar of the engine was the only sound. I pulled out my phone and found a number I rarely dialed. Arthur. Arthur was my mentor. 25 years ago, he helped me get established in Beaufort Crossing and start my logistics agency. He was also my spiritual guide. He taught me how to survive in this chaotic border city. I hadn't spoken to him in 5 years. Since he retired, he rarely appeared in public. The phone rang 3 times before it was answered. "Ethan," old Arthur's gravelly voice was curious. "So late? What's wrong?" "Arthur," my voice sounded so calm it was strange even to me. "I need you to help me look into someone. Leo, the bull, Vance, his trucking company, his past, his weaknesses, everything about him." There was a moment of silence on the other end. "Did this guy cause you trouble?" "More than that," I said. "He wants to take what's mine." "All right, son." Old Arthur's voice turned serious. "Tomorrow at noon, the Eagle's Nest Bar on Riverfront Avenue, just the 2 of us, and don't come in that flashy pickup." I hung up and drove out of the garage, heading downtown. I needed a place to spend the night, a place where I could think. In the car, I could feel something waking up inside me. The young Ethan Cole, who dared to take risks on the border and never gave up, was coming back. The next morning, when Evelyn woke up, she discovered I hadn't come home that night. She called me, a hint of barely perceptible anxiety in her voice. "Ethan, where are you? You didn't come home last night. I was worried." I could tell from her tone it wasn't worry, but annoyance that her plans had been disrupted. "There was a problem at the company," I said, making my voice sound intentionally tired. "I spent all night at the office processing files. Sorry, I forgot to let you know." "Oh, okay." She quickly regained her normal tone. "Don't work yourself too hard. See you tonight." I hung up and looked out the window at the Beaufort Crossing morning. The city was just waking up, the streets already starting to fill with bustle. In this border city, everyone was fighting to survive, and I was about to join the battle, in a way they never expected. At noon, the Eagle's Nest Bar on Riverfront Avenue was nearly empty. This decrepit bar was hidden in an alley between 2 high-rises. Only the old-timers knew it existed. The faded photos on the walls recorded the tumultuous history of this border city. The old radio behind the bar played 1950s blues. Old Arthur was already there waiting for me. This 70-year-old man had been a senior inspector for the state, thin but vigorous, always with a cigar in his mouth. Now he was the security consultant for my company, and more importantly, my mentor and guide. He was sitting in a corner booth with 2 glasses of bourbon in front of him, a cigar smoldering in the ashtray. "Ethan," he greeted me with a nod, "you look like you've been through a war." I sat down across from him and downed the bourbon in one gulp. The burning sensation of the alcohol cleared my head a little. I hadn't slept much last night, my mind filled with Evelyn's mocking laughter. Worse than a war. I briefly told him everything I had heard the night before. Old Arthur didn't interrupt me once. He just listened quietly, taking occasional puffs from his cigar. The smoke formed a hazy barrier around him. Then, after I finished, he slowly exhaled a cloud of smoke. "So, you've been cheated on. In Beaufort Crossing this happens every day, more common than sunsets." "It's different," I said. "It's not about the infidelity, it's about the humiliation. In front of her friends she turned our 25 years of marriage, 25 years of my dignity, into a joke, as if I were a useless, laughable fool." Old Arthur looked at me meaningfully. "Son, dignity is more expensive than gold in Beaufort Crossing. Even water from the bayou is cheaper. What do you want to do? Divorce her? Break that guy's legs?" "I want them ruined," I said calmly. "I want them to lose everything, just like they tried to take everything from me." Old Arthur nodded slightly and pulled a USB drive from his pocket. This isn't simple. Leo the Bull Vance has people behind him, powerful people. If you want to move against him, you need to be fully prepared. You know him? Who doesn't? Old Arthur smiled coldly. His trucking company looks clean on the surface, but it's actually one of the biggest smuggling channels on the border. But he has protection from up high, which is why the authorities never bother him. I don't care what protection he has, I said. No one can humiliate me like this and get away with it. Old Arthur looked at me deeply. This needs a week to investigate thoroughly. I have some old friends who can help, but we mustn't rush. I'll give you some preliminary information first, then we'll dig deeper. Vance is no ordinary character. He has a complex background. A week is fine, I said. But first I want to understand the relationship between him and Evelyn. How did they meet? When did it start? Old Arthur nodded. That's easy. I'll get you the preliminary intel by tomorrow. As for the deeper stuff, his protection network, financial situation, potential criminal activities, that needs more time and care. As I was about to stand up to leave, he grabbed my wrist. Remember, Ethan, the best hunter always disguises himself as prey first. Make them let their guard down, so when you strike, they won't even know who killed them. After I got home, Evelyn was in the kitchen preparing dinner. Seeing me return, she frowned slightly. You look terrible. Another full day without rest? Too much work stress, I said, making my voice sound intentionally exhausted. There were problems with the Lone Star Reserve contract. We might have to renegotiate. Her eyes flickered. Was it concern or calculation? I couldn't be sure anymore. You need to rest, dear, she said in a soft voice, putting her hand on my shoulder. Maybe you should see a doctor. You really look exhausted lately. Just as her hand landed on my shoulder, I suddenly remembered how she had described her passion with Leo the night before. This hand had caressed him, this mouth had kissed him. I suppressed my internal disgust and forced a smile. Maybe you're right. I really haven't been feeling well lately. During dinner, Evelyn talked at length about her recent social activities, while I just nodded mechanically. My thoughts had already flown far away. I was thinking about what kind of information old Arthur would bring tomorrow, how I would begin my plan for revenge. The next day, old Arthur brought the first results of the investigation. We met in a coffee shop near my office. He handed me a thick folder. Preliminary information, he said in a low voice. Your wife and Vance have known each other for at least a year, initially meeting at a charity dinner. Their relationship became intimate 3 months ago. They usually meet at the Hilton Hotel, sometimes at Vance's apartment in the beach area. I flipped through the files. They contained surveillance photos, hotel records, and summaries of some phone recordings. Seeing those photos, Evelyn and Vance talking intimately in the hotel lobby, having dinner together in restaurants, hugging in the parking lot, my heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. Is there more? I asked in a dry voice. This is just the beginning, old Arthur said. My people are investigating Vance's business. They've discovered some interesting things. His trucks have recently started taking unusual routes, stopping in remote places. This could mean he's involved in some illegal activity. Keep digging, I said. I need to know everything. It needs a few days, old Arthur said. These things can't be rushed. 3 days later, old Arthur brought more shocking news. Bull 1, Vance's flagship truck, had GPS traces from the past 3 months showing abnormal stops, all in remote corners of border checkpoints. This data was obtained by old Arthur through an old friend in the Transportation Administration. Look here, he pointed to a spot on the map. This is the place where they stop every time, usually during the early morning. Normal trucks don't stop in this kind of place. Smuggling? I asked. Very likely, old Arthur nodded. But what exactly they're smuggling needs further investigation. On the 5th day, old Arthur brought more news. In Evelyn's phone records were multiple encrypted calls with a certain art dealer from New Orleans. This information was obtained through an internal contact at a telecom company that old Arthur knew. This so-called art dealer is an interesting character, old Arthur said. On the surface, he operates a gallery, but in reality, he specializes in handling certain special products of unknown origin. Antique smuggling, I speculated. Very likely, old Arthur said. Historical artifacts from the Mississippi Delta are worth a fortune on the international black market. If they're really smuggling antiques, that's a serious felony, both in this state and federally. On the 7th day, a week later, old Arthur came to my office with the final results of the investigation. His expression was more serious than ever. I sat in my office, staring blankly at the computer screen, smoking cigarette after cigarette. The ashtray was full of butts, the office shrouded in smoke. The information old Arthur brought was worse than I had imagined, and more shocking. The most disturbing thing was a scan of a forged Special Agricultural Products Quick Pass permit with my signature on it. The date on the document was for next Tuesday. This document was discovered by old Arthur through his old connections in customs. Someone had already pre-entered it into the system, waiting to be used. They're not just having an affair. Old Arthur lit a new cigar, the smoke coiling under the dim light. They're planning a smuggling operation, and you're going to be the scapegoat. I continued to look through the files, discovering more chilling details. A $2 million life insurance policy, with Evelyn as the beneficiary. A warehouse rental contract located near my company, term of only 1 month. A series of email correspondences with fire safety equipment suppliers. "My God," I murmured, my voice feeling distant. "They plan to burn down my company, pin the smuggling and insurance fraud on me." "This plan is meticulously planned," old Arthur pointed to the emails on the screen. "Forge your signature, use your company as a front, then destroy the evidence after the goods get through, including you. The insurance money would give Evelyn a comfortable new life, while Vance would get a perfect smuggling opportunity." "They won't succeed," I said, feeling a cold anger spread within me. "I'll make them pay the price." Old Arthur's expression was grim. "Not just that. Look at this." He pointed to another folder on the screen. It contained a set of blurry photos showing Vance talking with a man with a goatee. The photos were taken in a remote bar. The light was dim, but it was enough to see the expressions of both men, serious and tense. "Who is this?" "Roman Shaw." Old Arthur's voice became lower. "A member of the Red River Syndicate. They specialize in a special service, making people disappear permanently. Cleaner than ghosts." The blood drained from my face. I looked carefully at those photos. Vance was handing an envelope to Shaw. It looked like it contained cash. This was not a simple extramarital affair, not even just a business conspiracy. It was a murder plot, and I was the target. "There's not much time left," old Arthur said, stubbing out his cigar in the ashtray. "They plan to act next Tuesday. You have 4 days." "That's enough." I stood up, feeling an unprecedented calm. "Now, I'm going to start my performance." Just then, someone knocked on my office door. Old Arthur and I quickly exchanged a look. I closed the computer screen. "Come in," I said. The door opened, and a woman in her late 30s walked in. She wore a dark suit, long black hair tied back in an efficient ponytail, her eyes sharp and focused. "Mr. Ethan Cole?" she asked in a clear, confident voice. "I'm Brooke Riley, a partner at a Geary law firm. Arthur asked me to come see you." I looked at old Arthur, who nodded slightly. "Brooke is one of the best lawyers in Beaufort Crossing, specializing in commercial and criminal cases. We need her." "Please sit down, Ms. Riley." I gestured for her to take a seat. "Call me Brooke," she said, opening her briefcase. "Arthur has already told me some of the situation. If your wife and her lover are really planning such a conspiracy, we need to handle this very carefully. What do you plan to do? Divorce? Criminal charges?" "Neither," I said, "at least not now. I want them to pay a greater price." Brooke raised an eyebrow. "I understand. Then we need to devise a plan, one that will give them a taste of their own medicine, while making sure you don't get into any legal trouble yourself." "Exactly," I said, "and I already have an idea." For the next 2 hours, the three of us discussed every detail of the revenge plan. Brooke provided valuable legal advice, pointing out potential risks and methods to avoid them. Old Arthur contributed his years of experience working on the border and his network of contacts. "First," I said, "I need to make them believe I've completely broken down, with no ability to stop their plan." "A self-sacrifice strategy," old Arthur nodded. "Make the enemy underestimate you." "But you must be careful," Brooke warned. "Don't actually do anything that could be detrimental to you in court. Everything must be an act, not a real breakdown." "I understand," I said. "I need a carefully orchestrated public performance, not a real self-destruction." For the next 2 days, I began my performance of a breakdown. The first step, I arranged a public meeting with the largest beer producer in the South, Lone Star Reserve. This was an important $500,000 contract related to my company's revenue stability for the next year. Following my instructions, old Arthur arranged for a double, an actor pretending to be a representative of Lone Star, to meet me at the most famous business restaurant in Beaufort Crossing. We chose lunchtime, ensuring there would be enough industry people present. Not even 20 minutes into the meeting, I suddenly stood up and shouted, "What games are you people trying to play? You want to lower prices? You want to steal my clients? Get out of my sight!" The whole restaurant went silent. Everyone turned to look at this scene. I flipped the table with a crash, food and documents scattering across the floor. Then I staggered out of the restaurant, leaving behind shocked looks. The effect of this performance was immediate. In less than an hour, the entire business circle of Beaufort Crossing was spreading the word that Ethan Cole had a mental breakdown, losing the big Lone Star contract. Some people even started to rumor that my company was facing a financial crisis. In reality, just the day before, I had already quietly signed a new contract with the real representatives of Lone Star in my lawyer's office. The terms were better than ever. Well done. That night, the real Lone Star representative, an old friend named Patrick, called me. "The whole city is talking about your breakdown. No one would suspect it was just an act." "Thanks for your cooperation," I said. "This is very important to me." "Don't mention it between friends," Patrick said. "Besides, you've helped me so many times." The second step, I started frequenting several low-end bars, drinking with shady people. Every night I made sure to come home drunk, reeking of alcohol, sometimes even intentionally vomiting in front of Evelyn. These bars were owned by old Arthur's old friends. Those seemingly shady people were actually his trusted helpers. We were all acting, but to outsiders, Ethan Cole was sinking into alcoholism. Once, when I returned home, Evelyn was in the living room watching TV. She saw me stagger through the door, my clothes stained with alcohol, beard unshaven, eyes bloodshot. "Ethan," she frowned, "what's wrong with you? You come home drunk every day lately." I pretended to be drunker, slurring my words. "What? Can't I have a drink to relax? Work, work, work all day. Can't I have a drink?" "Of course you can drink," she soothed me, but a flash of contempt passed through her eyes. "But not get drunk like this every day. What about the company?" "The company?" "Ha!" I laughed loudly, pretending to stumble. "The company is fine, very fine. I lost the Lone Star contract, but it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. I don't need their money." A flash of worry passed through Evelyn's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by an emotion I couldn't identify. Was it excitement? Expectation? She quickly regained her composure, saying in a concerned tone, "You need to rest, dear. Maybe you should see a doctor. You seem to have too much stress." "Doctor," I shook my head. "I don't need a doctor. I need alcohol. More alcohol." With that said, I rushed into the bathroom, making vomiting sounds loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. When I came out, Evelyn was no longer in the living room. I quietly walked to the bedroom door. I heard her talking on the phone in a low voice. "Yes, Leo. The situation is better than we imagined. He's completely broken down, even lost the Lone Star contract. Yes, I'll take care of everything." "No, he's like a walking zombie now. He won't notice anything. Tuesday, everything will proceed as planned." I quietly retreated and returned to the bathroom. The man in the mirror had eyes that gleamed with cold light. They were not the eyes of a drunkard, but the gaze of a hunter preparing for revenge. The third step, at a family dinner, in front of all the relatives, I had a huge fight with Evelyn's lazy brother Derek over a small thing. It was in the backyard of Evelyn's parents' house, a family gathering celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. Everyone was there, including Evelyn's 3 brothers and their spouses, plus some distant relatives. The table was full of classic Southern BBQ. The atmosphere had been harmonious. But when Derek started bragging about his recent business trip to Miami, I suddenly exploded. "Business trip," I sneered loudly, making sure everyone heard me. "The only business you've ever done in your life is living off your brother-in-law's connections." The conversations at the table stopped abruptly. Everyone turned to me, shock written on their faces. "Ethan," Evelyn shouted sternly, "you're drunk." "I'm very sober," I continued, standing up, pointing at Derek. Sober as I've ever been. For 25 years I've tolerated this good-for-nothing using my connections, taking my money. And he has never thanked me once. Derek's face turned red. You bastard. It was Evelyn who asked you to help me, not you. Who do you think you are? What are you? Just a logistics agent running errands for people. Say that again, I feigned fury, flipping the table. Food and utensils scattered across the ground. The women screamed, the men jumped up trying to stop me. I grabbed Derek's shirt collar, pretending I was going to hit him, but was held back by Evelyn's father and 2 cousins. Ethan, have you gone crazy? Evelyn's father roared, causing trouble at my anniversary party. I'm sorry, Dad, Evelyn hurried to say. Ethan has had too much work stress lately. He didn't mean it. Get out of my house, the old man pointed to the door. Get out right now. I was dragged out and thrown into my own car. Evelyn followed me out, a perfect expression of worry on her face, but excitement glittered in her eyes. Ethan, you need help, she said. You can't go on like this. Maybe you should take a rest. Let me handle the company's affairs. I looked at her, intentionally showing a hint of desperation and pleading. Maybe you're right, Evelyn. I feel like I can't hold on anymore. The company, the family, everything is crushing me. Let me help you, she said softly, taking my hand. I can handle the company's daily operations, ease your burden. I can meet with clients, stabilize their confidence. You would do that? I acted as if I had grabbed the last straw. That would be great, Evelyn. I know I've been horrible to you lately, but you're still willing to help me. Of course, dear, she smiled. That smile didn't reach her eyes. That's what married couples are supposed to do, right? I'd completely solidified my image of a midlife crisis, mental breakdown. Seeing this, Evelyn began to gently and considerately advise me to rest, and voluntarily offered to help with company affairs. She even suggested she could meet with my main clients to stabilize their confidence. Just the afternoon after her suggestion, I passed out drunk on the office sofa, my snores echoing throughout the room. Through my half-closed eyelids, I saw Evelyn tiptoe in, confirming I was unconscious. She looked around cautiously, then slipped into my private office, using the spare key she had for years to open the safe. She took out the company's official seal and several blank transit documents. Her movements were skilled. Obviously, this wasn't the first time she had done this. She quickly photographed the documents, then put the seal and some documents in her bag. The whole process took no more than 3 minutes. She left quietly, leaving only a subtle trail of perfume. All of this was clearly recorded by the spy camera I had previously installed in the smoke detector on the ceiling. Returning home while Evelyn was showering, I quickly checked her phone. As expected, she had numerous message exchanges with Leo, discussing their plans in detail. From this information, I confirmed that the smuggling would take place next Tuesday. The goods were colonial-era artifacts excavated from the Mississippi Delta, estimated to be worth over $5 million. Old Arthur Brooke and I met again, watching the surveillance footage, confirming Evelyn's actions. She fell for it. Old Arthur nodded with approval. Now it's time to tighten the rope. What's next? I asked, lighting a cigarette. Divide and conquer, Old Arthur said, his eyes gleaming with cunning. You know, even the most intimate lovers can't stand the test of suspicion, especially when huge sums of money are involved. We need to make them suspect each other, Brooke added. If they start to distrust each other, they will make mistakes, leaving more evidence. What do you have in mind? I asked. Let's start with Leo, Old Arthur said. He's a suspicious person, likes to control everything. We want to make him believe Evelyn is betraying him, just like she betrayed you. The next actions needed precise planning and perfect execution. First, we needed to divide this pair of accomplices, make them suspect each other, destroy each other. Old Arthur, through his network of contacts, found one of Leo's most trusted drivers, Ray. This man had a fatal weakness: gambling. He owed $15,000 to a casino in New Orleans. The creditors were already starting to threaten his family. Those underground casino lenders were not people to mess with. They used broken fingers and broken legs to collect debts. Through an intermediary, I helped Ray pay off his gambling debt and gave him an additional $5,000 as a service fee. In return, he needed to do something simple: slip the expensive limited edition earring that Evelyn had shown off on Instagram a few days ago into the crack of the passenger seat of Bull 1. It was a pair of 8,000 Tiffany blue diamond earrings, my Christmas gift from last year. She liked them very much, wore them often, even when she went out with Leo. This made them perfect evidence. Ray promised that the night before, Leo routinely inspected the truck under the pretext of refueling and maintenance. He would put the earring in the seat crack, ensuring Leo would find it when driving the next day. AITA. He's very meticulous about his truck, Ray explained. Before every long-distance transport, he personally inspects it once, making sure everything is normal. He will definitely find that earring. Ray completed the task and sent a confirmation message. The first step was in place. This was just the first step. Next, I hired a handsome young actor, Miles, to drive a rented Porsche Cayenne and casually encounter Evelyn at the Bell Tower Cafe where she used to go to chat her up. We had previously studied Evelyn's schedule. We knew that every Wednesday morning she would have coffee there with her friends. Miles's task was simple. Approach Evelyn, act like a wealthy businessman attracted by her beauty, have harmless but intimate conversations. Meanwhile, a private detective photographed their intimate conversation from not far away. Evelyn laughing cheerfully, Miles kissing the back of her hand. They looked like a loving couple. Make it a bit exaggerated, I told Miles, but natural. Make the photos look like two people are flirting, but not obviously on a date. Subtle but powerful, you understand? Miles did very well. In the photos, Evelyn was obviously charmed by him, eyes bright, body leaning forward, showing all the typical reactions of a woman towards an attractive man. Especially when Miles kissed the back of her hand, her expression, that mix of surprise and delight, was perfect. These photos were put in a plain envelope and sent anonymously to Leo's office. There was no return address on the envelope, no traceable marks. The afternoon Leo received the photos, roars of fury and sounds of smashing objects came from his office. According to his secretary, who later revealed, that day, Leo smashed a glass trophy for the National Business Innovation Award and almost threw a young delivery guy out the window. His face was red, eyes bloodshot. He looked like an enraged bull, completely matching his nickname. The plan targeting Evelyn was equally ingenious. I found a hacker friend who helped me forge an email seemingly from a Panama law firm. The attachment was a convincing offshore trust document showing that Leo had transferred 80% of the Bull Transport's shares to a trust. The beneficiaries were clearly Leo's ex-wife, Christine, and their son, Nicholas. The email body had only a brief paragraph. Ms. Evelyn, as your friend, a friendly reminder. This bull is saving himself a way out. After success, you might not get a single hair of the bull. After much consideration, I think you should know this information, someone who cares about you. To ensure the credibility of the email, we also set up several fake websites, including the official website of that Panamanian law firm and an offshore trust inquiry platform. If Evelyn tried to verify the information, she would find seemingly legitimate evidence, further deepening her suspicions. We made sure the email was sent when Evelyn was using the computer, so she would see it immediately. Through home network monitoring, I knew she had received the email and spent nearly 2 hours researching those documents and websites. From her frowning and constantly changing posture, the email had obviously achieved the desired effect. The next morning, Evelyn looked distracted, with obvious dark circles under her eyes. She barely ate breakfast, hurried out to the beauty salon, her typical behavior for dealing with stress. That night, Evelyn received a call from Leo, inviting her to dinner. She looked both excited and nervous, spent 2 hours carefully dressing up. She put on that nearly 3,000 red dress, my gift on her birthday, chose the sexiest lingerie, even had her hair and nails specially done. Ironically, she was going to wear my gift to meet the man who was planning to kill me. They met at the most expensive seaview restaurant in Beaufort Crossing, the Coral Reef. This restaurant was located on the peninsula. Each table had enough distance to ensure private conversations would not be heard by neighboring tables. From the windows, you could see the entire bay, the nightlights reflecting on the water, creating a dreamy atmosphere. But they didn't know I had already booked a hidden corner in the restaurant the day before, and had bribed the waiter to place Leo and Evelyn near my position. I gave the manager $1,000 in cash, who was happy to provide this little help. "Sir wants to spy on his wife?" he asked suggestively upon receiving the money. "No," I replied. "I want to watch a good show." That night, I wore a baseball cap and sunglasses, dressed in a plain dark shirt. I pretended to be a businessman working, laptop open. But in reality, I was recording, documenting every word of their conversation. I also brought Brooke with me. She sat opposite me, pretending to be my business partner, to avoid suspicion. Leo arrived before Evelyn. He chose a seat by the window. Today he didn't wear his signature leather jacket, but a dark blue shirt. The rolled-up sleeves revealed arms full of tattoos. He looked tense and alert, constantly looking around as if searching for potential threats. When Evelyn arrived, all the men turned to look at her. She really knew how to attract attention. The red dress hugged her curves. The high heels made her legs look even longer. Her hair fell over her shoulders like a black waterfall, lips painted bright red. "Look at her expression," Brooke whispered to me. "She's nervous. It's not expectant nervousness, but worry." Indeed, Evelyn's smile seemed forced, her eyes constantly wandering, her fingers nervously playing with her necklace. Her habit when she was nervous. Leo stood up to greet her, gave her a hug, but didn't kiss her as usual. Evelyn obviously noticed this. She frowned slightly, but quickly regained her smile. At first, the atmosphere was relatively harmonious. Leo ordered Evelyn's favorite champagne. Evelyn constantly praised how Leo's new shirt suited his eyes. But after the third glass, the conversation began to turn to their plan. "Is everything ready?" Evelyn asked, her voice very low, almost a whisper. "Of course," Leo laughed gruffly, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "The goods are in place. We also got the old fool's seal. On Tuesday we can have it all. Each of those statues is worth over 100 grand. The buyers already have the cash ready." Evelyn's expression did not show the imagined joy. She lightly tapped the rim of her glass with her fingers, seeming to be thinking about how to broach the subject. Her red nails glinted under the dim light, vivid as blood. "Leo," she finally said, "I was thinking about our future. After we succeed." Leo raised an eyebrow, the muscles in his powerful arms slightly tensed. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Evelyn continued, using an intentionally casual tone. Her body leaned forward, the low-cut dress showing a deep cleavage. "Will we manage the company together? How will the money be distributed? Where will we live?" Leo's expression became cautious, like a wolf sniffing danger. His eyes became sharp, his fingers lightly tapping the table. "Shouldn't we discuss these questions after we get the money?" "But we should have a plan, right?" Evelyn insisted, leaning forward. "For example, the company shares. I heard your ex-wife might still have certain interests." Leo's expression instantly darkened. A dangerous glint passed through his eyes. The tendons on the back of his hand bulged, his knuckles whitening as he gripped the steak knife. "Who told you that?" "That doesn't matter." Evelyn dodged a direct answer, waving her hand lightly. "What's important is that we should be honest with each other. If I'm going to take a risk, I need to know what I'm risking for." "You're questioning me?" Leo's voice rose. Several neighboring tables looked over. "After everything we've done? After I risked helping you get rid of that useless husband?" "Helping me?" Evelyn laughed coldly, a flash of anger passing through her eyes. "We're partners, Leo. Don't forget that without me, you couldn't even get Ethan's seal." I watched this farce, feeling a strange satisfaction. They were fighting over the trap I had set, completely unaware of the real danger. My hand steadily adjusted the recording equipment, making sure every word was clearly recorded. Brooke lightly touched my hand under the table. They took the bait, completely. Leo stood up abruptly, knocking over the chair with a loud crash. "So that's your true face? Once you get the money, you plan to get rid of me, right? Just like you plan to get rid of Ethan?" "Sit down," Evelyn hissed, looking around, realizing they were attracting unnecessary attention. "Don't let everyone stare at us." But Leo was already enraged. He brutally grabbed Evelyn's wrist with enough force to leave red marks on her skin. "Tell me, what about those photos? You and that rich kid with the Porsche?" Evelyn's face instantly paled, pupils dilating. "What photos? Are you spying on me?" "Bitch," Leo roared, his voice low and dangerous. "I knew I shouldn't have trusted you. Once you have a better option, you'll abandon me, just like you abandoned Ethan." Evelyn broke free from his grip, stood up and slapped him across the face, the sound echoing clearly in the restaurant. "Get away from me, you controlling maniac. I haven't betrayed anyone." Leo was about to retaliate when the restaurant manager walked over with 2 security guards. "Sir, ma'am," the manager said seriously, "you must leave. This is a high-end restaurant, not a boxing ring." Leo glared furiously at the manager, then turned to Evelyn. "This isn't over. I'll be watching you." Evelyn grabbed her bag, held her head high proudly. "Do whatever you want, but don't forget, without me, you won't get anything." The scene briefly spiraled out of control. Evelyn broke a glass. Leo was escorted out of the restaurant by security. All the diners in the restaurant were whispering, pointing. This scene, of course, was completely recorded by my phone. This would be an important part of my revenge plan. "Perfect," Brooke said, watching Leo and Evelyn being escorted out of the restaurant separately. "They've already started to suspect each other. Now it's time for the final blow." Returning home, Evelyn was emotionally agitated, immediately locking herself in the bathroom to take a bath. I feigned concern, knocking on the door, asking. She just mumbled vaguely that she had encountered a drunkard at the cafe. Nothing serious. "Do you need anything?" I asked through the door, my voice laced with deliberate concern. "You seem very upset." "No, it's nothing," she answered briefly. "I'm just tired. Can you sleep in the guest room? I need to be alone." "Of course," I said obediently. "If you need anything, just call me." After leaving, I quietly returned to the door. I heard her talking on the phone in a low voice. "Leo, have you gone crazy? What are those photos?" "No, I haven't betrayed you. That was just a stranger who hit on me at the cafe. Do you think I'm that kind of easy woman?" "No, the plan won't change. Yes, everything will proceed as planned. We can't give up because of a small misunderstanding. Okay, calm down. We'll talk tomorrow." On the other side of the city, Leo was roaring in his office, yelling on the phone, ordering his people to monitor Evelyn's every move, 24/7. "I want to know where she goes, who she meets, when," he told the person on the phone. "If you see her with any man, notify me immediately." The snake had begun to devour its own tail. The next 2 days, the crack between Leo and Evelyn grew wider. Leo's people began to blatantly follow Evelyn. There was often a black SUV parked across from our house or following her car. Evelyn hired a private detective to investigate Leo's financial situation, trying to find evidence of that so-called offshore trust. Their perfect plan already had dangerous cracks. But this was not enough. I needed to ensure they would still execute the plan on Judgment Day, only with extreme mutual distrust. The night before the action, in a safe house of old Arthur's, I personally packed that deadly gift. I put on gloves, placed a box of Evelyn's favorite brand of intimate items, but not in Leo's size, a bottle of high-end strong Viagra, and a handwritten card in an exquisite gift box. The card read, "Dear Bull, don't let our Mr. Short Time outdo us. The anticipation of tonight makes me tremble. With love, E." This gift box would appear at the crucial moment, becoming the last straw that broke the camel's back. I carefully chose every detail. The color of the gift box was Evelyn's favorite light blue. The ribbon was the type she commonly used. The handwriting on the card imitated her calligraphy. Anyone familiar with Evelyn would think it was her handiwork. To ensure it was foolproof, I decided to place this gift box in the cab of Bull 1 beforehand. Through Ray, I knew that Leo would be driving the truck early tomorrow, planning to arrive at the border in the afternoon. "But Leo is a very cautious person," Brooke said worriedly. "He might check the truck before setting off. If he discovers the gift box prematurely, our plan will fail." "So we need a smarter method," I said, thinking for a moment. "Ray, where's the truck's glove compartment?" "There's a small storage compartment under the driver's seat," Ray replied. "Leo usually puts documents and small items there." "Then let's disguise the gift box as an ordinary toolbox," I said. "Put a discreet bag on top, tuck it into the compartment. Only when Leo reaches for documents or something will he tear the bag and discover that exquisite gift box." "This could work," Ray nodded. "Tonight I'll go to routinely check the truck. I can easily put it in." The plan was thus set. Ray would put the disguised gift box in the truck's storage compartment that night, making sure it looked like an ordinary tool package. "Everything is ready," I told old Arthur and Brooke. "Tomorrow they will pay the price for their arrogance and betrayal." Old Arthur nodded silently, his eyes shining with approval. "You are calmer than I imagined, Ethan. Revenge is a cold dish, but it seems you prefer to turn it into a lively comedy." "No," I corrected. "I prefer to turn it into a perfect tragedy. A tragedy for them, On Tuesday morning, the weather was unusually clear, the sky a washed-out blue without a cloud, as if the sky was also waiting for today's good show. I arrived early at the Overlook restaurant next to the San Diego Highway. This restaurant was located on a small hill with an excellent view overlooking the entire border checkpoint. The Texas-Louisiana border checkpoint was always bustling, vehicles forming long queues waiting for clearance. This is one of the busiest land crossings in the country, with tens of thousands of people and vehicles crossing daily. I set up the telescope, adjusted to the best focus, then checked the phone signal, everything normal. From this position, I could clearly see the main road leading to the checkpoint, as well as the layout of the checkpoint itself. At 9 o'clock, I made the first call. After connecting, I only said one sentence: "It's green." This was the signal for Officer Jackson, leader of the CBP Special Operations Group. Jackson was an old friend of Old Arthur's, also one of the few border enforcement officers willing to take a risk for a big case. In this corruption-ridden region, finding someone willing to do the right thing was not easy. The information we gave him was simple: a truck loaded with precious colonial-era artifacts would cross the border today. Forged documents worth millions of dollars. These artifacts were national cultural heritage, strictly forbidden to export. Smuggling such artifacts was not only a serious felony in Louisiana, but also violated federal law. This was a big case that Jackson could not ignore. It could add a highlight to his career. The second call was to the Vulture, Goss, the most famous border TV reporter. Known for digging up explosive stories in live broadcasts, his program had extremely high ratings, specializing in reporting crime and corruption in the border region. I only told him that today at the border there would be an unprecedented enforcement operation. I asked him to bring his camera crew, prepare the satellite broadcast truck. For a reporter as sharp as him, this was enough to make him tremendously excited. "Is this exclusive news?" he asked eagerly. "More than exclusive," I replied. "It will be the biggest news of your career." The third call was to Henderson, Leo's biggest business rival. The two of them had been competing for control of the border transportation market for years. Their relationship was so bad, it was almost openly hostile. I told him that if he wanted to see Leo fall, come to the border checkpoint to witness everything personally. "This isn't some kind of trap, is it, Cole?" he asked cautiously. "It's not a trap, Henderson," I assured him. "It's a show you won't want to miss." The fourth call was to Old Arthur, telling him to start executing Operation Guardian. Old Arthur's task was to ensure that Leo's protective umbrella within the system, an inspector named Sullivan, would not appear at the checkpoint today. "Don't worry," Old Arthur said. "I've already arranged it. Sullivan will be busy dealing with his own problems elsewhere today. He won't appear at the checkpoint, nor will he warn Leo." "How did you manage that?" I asked curiously. "Some old things from the past," Old Arthur smiled mysteriously. 20 years ago, Sullivan made a big mistake in an operation. I helped him cover it up. This old friend owes me one. Now it's time for him to pay his debt. The last call was to Diaz, head of the Port Arthur Police Department. This was an old friend of Brooks. She once helped him solve a thorny legal problem. "There's an anonymous report," I told Diaz, "this afternoon in Suite 3028 of the Vista Del Mar Hotel. There will be an illegal transaction of artifacts. The buyer is an art dealer from New Orleans." "Understood," Diaz replied briefly. "I will send people to surround the hotel. We will wait for confirmation before acting." Time passed minute by minute. At 10:30, I received a message from Old Arthur. "The bull has departed. Estimated arrival at the border 11:30. Through the GPS tracker I had installed in Evelyn's car, I knew she had also departed, heading to the Vista Del Mar Hotel in Port Arthur to meet that so-called art dealer. Everything was proceeding according to plan. At 11:00, the CBP tactical team was already in position, ambushed around the checkpoint. Their black SUVs were hidden in various corners, ready to act at any moment. The agents were fully armed, wearing bulletproof vests, equipped with the latest equipment. This was a major operation. They were obviously fully prepared. At 11:15, the Vulture Goss's broadcast truck appeared near the borderline. His cameraman began setting up equipment. Goss himself wore his signature red suit, tidying his hair and tie, preparing to go on air. He had no idea what was about to happen, but his journalistic instinct told him this would be a big story. At 11:20, Henderson and a few of his men also arrived, standing at a distance observing. They wore expensive suits, wearing sunglasses, looking like mafia members attending some important social event. Everything was ready, just waiting for the protagonist to appear. At 11:28, a green heavy truck appeared at the end of the road. It was Bull 1, Leo's flagship truck, its body painted with the company logo and a raging bull. The truck slowly drove towards the checkpoint, stopping at the routine inspection point. Leo himself was sitting in the driver's seat. He looked confident. He handed over the documents, those documents with my company's seal and forged signature. The inspector checked the documents, then looked at the computer screen. Then he made a signal indicating for Leo to drive to the secondary inspection area. This was standard procedure, done with any vehicle transporting agricultural products. Leo didn't seem worried. This was also part of the plan. Leo's expression looked somewhat tense, but he still complied. Just then, 4 black SUVs suddenly shot out from all directions, completely surrounding Bull 1. Fully armed CBP tactical team members jumped out of the cars, pointing M4 rifles at the truck. "Federal enforcement! Shut off the engine, hands on the wheel!" The voice from the loudspeaker echoed throughout the checkpoint. Leo was frozen in the driver's seat, his face pale. He slowly raised his hands, was dragged out of the cab by 2 tactical team members. He was pressed to the ground, quickly handcuffed, then dragged to the side. His expression was one of pure shock and fear. He obviously had not expected any of this. Meanwhile, another group of personnel used hydraulic extractors to pry open the sealed container doors. Floodlights illuminated the dark interior of the cargo compartment. Under the cover of regular frozen food, a secret compartment was hidden. When the compartment was opened, golden objects appeared before everyone. They were dozens of gold artifacts from the pre-colonial era, each one a priceless treasure. Also, national treasure-level artifacts strictly forbidden to be exported. The gold artifacts glittered under the sunlight, dazzling and precious. The Vulture Goss's live broadcast had already begun, the images transmitted via satellite to TV screens across the South. "This is Victor Goss, reporting live on the shocking border case," he said excitedly into the camera. His voice trembled slightly with excitement. "Federal agents have just intercepted a batch of smuggled artifacts worth millions of dollars. Please look. These gold artifacts are shining with breathtaking light. They are the heritage of our people. But they were almost smuggled out by criminals. This might be the largest artifact smuggling case in recent years." At a distance, Henderson and his men began to whistle and hoot, gloating over Leo's misfortune. Their expressions were full of satisfaction and vengeance. Years of business competition were finally settled in this way. But the dramatic scene was yet to come. When the CBP agents searched the cab, they found that exquisite gift box. "Chief, there's a package here," an agent shouted, holding up the light blue gift box. Jackson walked over, wearing gloves, opened the box. The contents immediately caused a round of chuckles. The intimate items in Viagra were clearly in sight, along with that card full of suggestive words. "What the hell is this?" Jackson picked up the card, reading it aloud under the camera's close-up. "Dear Bull, don't let our Mr. Short Time outdo us. The anticipation of tonight makes me tremble. With love, E." Leo's face turned from red to iron blue, finally to pale white. Like a maddened bull, he suddenly broke free from the control of 2 agents, charging towards the camera. "This is a setup," he roared, his eyes full of anger and betrayal. "Evelyn Cole, that bitch, it's her. It was all designed by her and her husband. She set me up. That slut doesn't just have one man. She wants money. She wants my company. She made me take the risk while she was planning to betray me." In front of the live camera, Leo roared like a wounded beast, revealing all the dirty details of the plan, including how to forge my signature, how to plan the arson to burn down my company, even the details of how they plan to make me disappear on Friday. "It was her idea," he continued to roar, spittle flying. "She said her husband had insurance, worth $2 million. She said if we got rid of him, burned his company, she could get the money and we could leave together. She's a devil, a heartless bitch. She betrayed her husband, now she betrayed me." His breakdown was watched in real time by hundreds of thousands of viewers, including Evelyn, who was waiting in the luxurious hotel suite in Port Arthur with the so-called art dealer. In that suite, Evelyn was toasting with the buyer, celebrating the wealth that would soon be in their hands. On her phone, live broadcast links from her friends popped up non-stop. She clicked the link, saw Leo's breakdown, and everything he revealed. Her face instantly paled. The glass slipped from her hand, crashing on the marble floor with a crisp, shattering sound. "Impossible," she murmured. "Impossible to be like this." Just in her cries of horror, the Port Arthur Police Department kicked down the door. "Police! Nobody move!" the officers shouted, storming into the room with guns drawn. Chief Diaz had been notified at the first moment of Leo's arrest. His people had already surrounded the hotel, just waiting for a confirmation signal. When Leo named Evelyn's location and crimes on the live broadcast, that signal came. And at the border checkpoint, Leo was still shouting crazily, "Catch her! She's the mastermind! Evelyn Cole! She designed everything! She's at the Vista Del Mar Hotel in Port Arthur. Right now, go catch her!" But it was too late. Evelyn and her accomplice buyer had already fallen into the net of the law. The whole region was witnessing this live broadcasted breakdown and expose. I put away the telescope from the restaurant rooftop and nodded silently. The first phase of the plan had been perfectly executed. Now it was time to start the second phase. In the interrogation room of the Federal Police Headquarters, the atmosphere was heavy. The air was filled with the scent of coffee and sweat. The buzzing of the fluorescent lights was the only background sound. Evelyn sat on a cold metal chair, her makeup already smeared, her eyes red and swollen. She looked 10 years older than her real age. Her red dress was wrinkled, hair messy, handcuff marks still on her wrists. She was still trying to stick to her version. It was all Leo's idea. He coerced me, threatened to hurt Ethan if I didn't help. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. The two investigators sitting opposite her exchanged a skeptical look. They had listened to 3 hours of excuses, but Evelyn's story was full of holes and contradictions. The interrogation room door opened. An officer walked in. "Mrs. Cole, someone wants to see you." A figure appeared at the door. It was me, Ethan Cole, in a suit and tie, vibrant, completely different from the breakdown state of the past few weeks. My hair was combed back neatly, beard cleanly shaven, eyes shining with cold, confident light. Behind me was Brooke, a folder under her arm. Evelyn's face instantly paled, her lips trembling slightly. Ethan." "Evelyn," I said calmly, sitting in the chair opposite her. "It seems your plan didn't proceed as you hoped." "What plan?" "I don't know what you're talking about." She tried to salvage the situation, but she had already lost confidence in her voice. "I'm a victim. Leo threatened me." I smiled slightly, motioning for Brooke to put a tablet on the table. "Then, maybe this will refresh your memory." The screen played the complete surveillance footage of her sneaking into my office and stealing the seal. The clear images showed how she skillfully opened the safe, took the seal, then used her phone to photograph confidential documents. Throughout the process, her expression was calm and focused, with no signs of being threatened or coerced. Seeing the video, Evelyn instantly collapsed, slumping in the chair. "This is impossible. How could you—" "I know everything, Evelyn," I said, my voice calm but full of power. "From your first meeting with Leo to every detail you planned. I know how you planned to frame me, how to destroy my company, even how to make me permanently disappear." "No, this isn't—" "Roman Shaw," I interrupted her, putting a photo on the table. The photo showed Leo talking with the goateed man. "Leo paid him $50,000 to handle me on Friday night. Very specific arrangements, including pushing my car off the cliff, disguising it as a drunk driving accident. Very thoughtful, wasn't it?" Evelyn's face turned ashen. She knew there was no escape. Her eyes scanned the room, looking for any possible way out, but she only saw cold walls and unforgiving cameras. However, just as she seemed about to give up, Evelyn suddenly straightened up. A flash of coldness and calculation passed through her eyes. "You think you've won?" She laughed coldly, her voice low. "You have no idea what you're messing with, Ethan. Do you know how many friends I have? Friends in high places?" This was a desperate counterattack, a final attempt. Her voice, though trembling, the threat in her eyes was real. "Who do you think has been protecting Leo's business all these years?" she continued to say. She stood up, pointing at me. "The same people will protect me, too. Don't forget, I know all your company's secrets, Ethan. those bonuses given to officials for customs clearance, those accounting practices walking on the edge of the law. If I go down, you won't be well off either. I looked at her calmly, then turned to Brooke and nodded. Brooke pressed another button on the tablet, playing a recording. It was the audio from that video shot at the Coral Reef restaurant. "We're partners, Leo. Don't forget that without me you couldn't even get Ethan's seal." Evelyn's voice echoed clearly in the interrogation room. "And this part," I said, motioning for Brooke to continue playing. "Yes, Leo, the situation is better than we imagined. He's completely broken down, even lost the Lone Star contract. Yes, I'll take care of everything. No, he's like a walking zombie now. He won't notice anything. Tuesday, everything will proceed as planned." This was the recording of when she was talking on the phone in the bathroom, clearly indicating she was an active participant, not a coerced victim. "Why?" I asked, my voice calm but full of power. 25 years of marriage. I gave you everything. Why do this to me?" Evelyn raised her head, her eyes shining with a coldness I had never seen before. "Because you're too mediocre, Ethan. Your life, your work, everything about you is so boring. I'm tired of being the wife of a logistics agent owner. I deserve a better life. So you decided to kill me?" "That was Leo's idea," she defended, her voice sharp. "I just wanted money. I wanted freedom. I never agreed to hurt you." I shook my head, sighing deeply. "You know what, Evelyn? I could have given you freedom. If you just wanted a divorce, I would have given you a considerable property. But you chose betrayal and murder." I stood up, straightened my suit. "The prosecutor suggests the charges against you include conspiracy to smuggle national artifacts, forging federal documents, attempted insurance fraud, conspiracy to murder, enough to spend the rest of your life in prison." Evelyn suddenly burst into hysterical laughter, the kind of laughter that chilled the blood, like someone who had reached the verge of a mental breakdown. "You think you've won? You think this is over? You don't know me, Ethan. I'll find a way out. I always find a way." Just as I was about to leave, Evelyn suddenly shouted, "You set us up. That gift box, that card, it was your doing, wasn't it?" I turned back, a calm smile on my face. "Prove it." Evelyn opened her mouth to refute, but closed it again. She knew there was no evidence that could prove my involvement. All the clues pointed to her and Leo. The perfect plan had become the perfect trap. Brooke lightly touched my arm. "It's time to go, Ethan. The prosecutor needs us to sign some documents." Walking out of the interrogation room, I felt an unprecedented relief. This was not just revenge, it was justice. It was redemption for every ounce of love and trust I had invested in 25 years. In a way, it was also redemption for myself, proving that I was no longer the Mr. Short-Time his wife mocked. Outside, the Vulture Goss was doing a live report. The case of the century that shocked the South continues to unfold. According to reliable sources, Evelyn Cole, founder of the Ladies' Club, not only participated in the smuggling case, but is also allegedly involved in planning to murder her own husband. And more shockingly, this so-called Ladies' Club might just be a front for money laundering for wives of wealthy men. Vargas's good luck didn't end there. During the investigation of Evelyn, the police accidentally discovered a recording of one of her friend's parties. This recording was obtained with high-quality recording equipment I had quietly installed in the living room after hearing the humiliation for the first time. In the recording, Evelyn and her friends not only discussed private lives, but also complacently talked about how to use their husband's power to help each other, transfer assets, evade taxes with detailed conversations. I did not hand the recording to the police, but anonymously sent it to the internal discipline department of the bank where Penelope's husband worked, and to the political opponents of Rachel's husband. This precision strike immediately triggered internal investigations and political struggles. Goss's program reported on this case for a week straight, digging deep into the secrets of the Ladies' Club, exposing evidence of benefit exchanges using their husbands' companies. Evelyn's friends, to protect themselves, began to accuse each other, revealing each other's secrets and scandals. Penelope was exposed for using her husband's banking position to provide unsecured loans to club members. Rachel was found to be using her husband's influence in the municipal government to provide preferential policies to club members' companies. Paige was accused of helping with money laundering, turning illegal gains into legitimate investments. The entire circle completely collapsed in just a few days. The once glamorous ladies of Beaufort Crossing had now become subjects of police investigation, a laughingstock on social media, the talk of the entire city. Leo's situation was worse. He was charged with smuggling national-level artifacts, forging federal documents, conspiracy to murder, and many other serious crimes. No lawyer wanted to defend him because the evidence was solid. Plus, his confession on national broadcast basically cut off any possibility of defense. The most surprising thing was that Leo's protective umbrella also collapsed quickly. Those high officials who were once willing to provide him with protection now distanced themselves one by one. Fearing being dragged into the scandal, no one wanted to have any connection with a criminal who broke down and admitted to all the crimes on national broadcast. "This is the nature of power," old Arthur told me over lunch. "When you are strong, they revolve around you. When you fall, they are the first to trample on you." 6 months later, the court pronounced judgment on Leo and Evelyn's crimes. Leo was sentenced to 25 years in prison, Evelyn to 18 years. They would spend most of the rest of their lives in federal prisons in separate locations. I attended the sentencing, sitting in the back row of the public gallery, quietly witnessing all this. When Evelyn was escorted out of the court, her eyes scanned the entire court. Finally, they locked on my face. There was no repentance in her eyes, only empty hatred. I knew she still didn't understand where she had gone wrong. To her, the only mistake was that her plan had failed, not the plan itself. Just as the case was settling, Leo's company fell into crisis. Without his leadership and protection, those once partners and clients walked away one by one. The company's assets were frozen, employees scattered. It finally declared bankruptcy. During the bankruptcy liquidation process, Leo's assets were auctioned off by the court. This process usually took months or even years, but under Brooke's expert legal guidance, I was fully prepared, setting up a shell company specifically for acquisitions. On the day of the auction, Brooke and I appeared together at the court-designated auction venue. The competition was not fierce. Leo's company was already infamous. Plus, rumors carefully spread by Henderson in the industry saying the company's fleet was in poor condition. Not many people were interested. I acquired most of the Bull transport fleet and the most valuable transport route permits at a price far below the market. This transaction was completely legal, supervised by the court with no possible legal loopholes. 6 months later, in the heart of Beaufort Crossing's commercial district, a new building rose with the logo of Cole International Logistics Group prominently displayed. This modern 20-story building became a new landmark on the Beaufort Crossing skyline, symbolizing that my career had reached new heights. After acquiring Leo's assets, my company expanded by 3 times, becoming one of the largest logistics companies in the border region. Those clients who had once looked down on me now competed to work with me, because I had become the new king of the border logistics industry. I sat in my top-floor office in the newly completed corporate headquarters, looking out the window at the river of traffic lights flowing on the borderline. Night was falling. The lights of Beaufort Crossing flickered like countless stars. The American side of San Diego was like a sea of lights. This city that was once ruthless to me now bowed at my feet. Old Arthur sat on the opposite sofa, holding a glass of 20-year-old bourbon. His expression was calm, but pride shone in his eyes. "You did it, son," he said, his voice slightly hoarse with age. "From a looked-down-upon husband to the logistics king of Beaufort Crossing. This city now looks at you with different eyes." I smiled slightly. "It wasn't just my achievement, Arthur. Without you, I couldn't have accomplished anything." "Ha, don't say that." He waved his hand, his cigar smoke rising slowly. "I only provided information and advice. The real strategist was you." Old Arthur looked at his watch. "It's late. I should go back. The matter with Sullivan isn't over yet. I have to meet him tomorrow." "Sullivan? You're still using that compromising information?" I asked in surprise. Old Arthur smiled cunningly. "A good piece of compromising information, like a good wine, becomes more valuable with age." He still has quite a few friends in the customs system. Now is when we need inside information. Shortly after old Arthur left, my office door was gently knocked. Brooke walked in. She was a smart, capable lawyer, long black hair tied back in an efficient ponytail, her eyes bright and intelligent. Throughout the entire event, she gave me tremendous help, not only legally, but also emotional support during that difficult period. "Ethan, the documents are ready," she said, putting a stack of documents on my desk. "These are the new international transport permits, covering all major ports in the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. With this, we can expand operations to all of North America." "Thank you, Brooke," I said, my gaze lingering on her for a moment. "You've been my biggest support these 6 months. Without you, the company couldn't have grown so fast." "I just did my job," she smiled, but there was a hint of shyness in her eyes. "It makes me happy to see a good person finally get the success they deserve." "Please join me for a drink," I said, pouring her a glass of bourbon. Brooke hesitated for a moment, then accepted the invitation. We raised our glasses. "To new beginnings," Brooke said, her eyes with warm light. "No, to endings," I said. "All endings are new beginnings." Brooke's hand gently rested on mine, warm and firm. There was something in her eyes that I had never seen in Evelyn's eyes, genuine respect and appreciation. We smiled at each other, both understanding some things that didn't need to be said. For the past 6 months, we had spent countless deep nights together, planning together, facing crises together, celebrating victories together. In this process, we had built a special chemistry and trust. Now, when all the dust settled, the relationship between us also began a new chapter. My gaze passed through the window to the distance. In that direction, Evelyn and Leo were spending their time in federal prison. Reportedly, Leo was not having a good time in prison. His former business rivals made sure he received special treatment. Every day was a battle for survival. And Evelyn had completely broken down. That once proud lady was now just a haggard prisoner, stripped of everything she valued: luxury goods, social life, male adoration. And I, Ethan Cole, was no longer the Mr. Short-Time in anyone's mouth. In Beaufort Crossing, this border city, I had become a legend. I had become the rules themselves. Those memories of Mr. Short-Time had already become distant and blurry, like something that happened to someone else. The me of now controlled my own destiny, had success in business, and possibly new love. The tango was over, the king of the dance had ascended the throne. If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and help us get this trending, so that more people can see this legend of border revenge. Thank you for listening to this story of emotional reversals. This is a brutal work of revenge that unfolds on the American border, the legend of how an ordinary person became a hunter. Which step of Ethan's plan do you think was the most brilliant? The deadly gift box or the collapse of the friends group? I hope to see you again in our next story.